Hello Fanatics, welcome to the weekly outlook and setups volume 243. Iliya here. You know what we're going to be doing, having a look at the markets, how they developed this week, what kind of opportunities we had, and most importantly what we can expect for the upcoming week, which is going to be probably quite volatile because we have a lot of news. So of course, let's get into the analysis. Let's start with the news and then of course see what the technicals are potentially telling us. So having a look at the economic calendar, we can see that it's very likely going to be quite a volatile week. Now, first things first, it is a brand new month. And every first Friday of every brand new month, we're having NFP. So usually when you're having that first week of a brand new month, it tends to be quite tricky. But this week is also something special because on Monday, manufacturing PMIs, very volatile. On Tuesday, job openings here, also major impact. On Wednesday, Aussie GDP, US here, ADP, non-farm employment change, just kind of something before the real NFP. Rate statement for the CAT, then services PMI, also very volatile. PMIs tend to be very volatile nowadays. Apart from CPIs, PMIs are also very volatile. Then on Thursday, we have interest rate decision from the ECB. And what I can see is that they are expecting to cut their rates. Now, usually a rate cut is a decrease, a depreciation of the currency. So does that mean that the euro is going to go bearish? Well, rather interested to see, because right now, for example, if you have a look here to the left, if the euro interest rate drops to 4.25, and then we have USD at 5.50, so it makes sense for euro USD to potentially go bearish because the yield of the USD is a lot higher. And if you just look at interest rate differentials, then euro USD should fundamentally be bearish. So let's of course see how that's going to play out. Paired with that, unemployment claims, press conference, and then on Friday, NFP, which comes with unemployment rate as well, and a lot of other things, average hourly earnings and all that good stuff. So you can see that absolutely every single day we have red news, in expectation also for NFP, in expectation also for the interest rate for the euro. So if you're trading euro USD, which I am, it's my main pair, then this is what we were going to be waiting for. Potentially, like, you could try to catch some trades Monday, Tuesday, maybe even Wednesday, but the market is going to be making the true move potentially on Thursday. All right. But also, as I look at the overall economic calendar, there are so many news so that the market will very likely be moving every day. So very likely I'm going to be looking to get involved every single day. And guess what? Just following the plan. All right. But of course, being aware that we're going to be having that interest rate, and also we are going to be having parliamentary elections starting. So very interesting times are ahead of us. Also, right now we're having June. June, July tend to be very good months until August hits. So let's hope we're going to enter into some very, very nice markets. Let's jump into the technicals right now. Right now, we know that the market is going to be extremely volatile next week, potentially. All right, we never know. And if you actually have a look on the monthly time frame, the market didn't break out of its previous monthly candle high and low. So technically right now we're having a monthly inside bar, which is not very nice because again, it signifies that this whole month we pretty much consolidated, right? But no, overall we did move lower. So right now, if you simply ask the question, usually again, when you have an inside bar, there is usually then on the next candle, one side that is taken. So is going to be the bullish side or is going to be the bearish side? Well, to me, it does make a lot of sense for it to be the bearish side because we're just going lower. The market is getting very close to this previous monthly. It's not even the previous monthly low. It's the previous monthly low, right? And then of course, what I'm seeing is that the market failed to continue higher to potentially take out this high. All right, so why is it making this pullback right now? Is it waiting for the news? Again, we don't know. So it's very hard to analyze the macro picture right now, especially for the DXY. It's constantly giving like mixed signals. You can see here on the weekly time frame, for example, we had this weekly bullish imbalance. We had this overall sell candle here, this base, this order block, this demand zone, whatever you like to call it. The market tapped, tried to respond, tapped again, tried to respond, and it's failing. So to me, the market potentially should be seeking liquidity below this low. So if I'm just purely technical, I would say that this low here is my overall drawn liquidity, starting at least for the beginning of this month. Then are we going to potentially sweep that and then start running higher? I don't care, all right? But to me right now, this is what it makes sense to be reached. If, of course, something doesn't start happening on the lower time frames and the market is like about to expand higher, which we don't have any signs of. And as you can see, like the last couple of weekly candles here, we had this nice bearish drop on the second week of May. And then right now we're having 2 weeks that are also inside bars of this. So you see we're having inside bars within inside bars, right? Even this week here was an inside bar. So we're having a lot of inside bars on the DXY, which simply suggests an overall consolidation. We're not trending. So even if I look at this, right, so what is very likely to be taken, right? So this is, for example, the weekly, right? And this is the monthly. So you see how they're very nicely stacked, one below the other. And then as we start making our way onto the daily time frame, now here we can look for signs to potentially see where the market can drive us. But we don't have any signs. Like we had this bearishness, then the market pulled back, then it wanted to go lower. It didn't really make any bearish imbalances. There is no bullish imbalance here as well. So overall, this whole delivery here is a chop. It doesn't give us a direction. And then I constantly keep asking why. Well, probably because maybe of the news next week or the news that are incoming potentially this month. Very uncertain. Now on the daily time frame, I don't have much to extract, right? There are no imbalances. There is absolutely nothing. The price is perfectly balanced. It's just, so what we did this week is we took out the previous weekly high, then we took out the previous weekly low, and then we just closed, right? So absolutely no direction. So then we go here onto the FOH, and then we have this hourly bearish imbalance. We also had this hourly bearish imbalance. So what I see on the hourly time frame is that we are overall bearish, and this can potentially be our also the drawn liquidity, which is exactly resting here towards the weekly, and which is also where the monthly is overall. So if I'm to pick a direction, then it would be bearish. Now again, the very recent price action pretty much is reacting from this hourly bearish imbalance. We also have this very nice big buy to sell that act as your order block, whatever you like to call it. And I would believe that the market could potentially push lower. Now, I usually, when doing my weekly analysis, I usually do not drop to the FOH, because within the FOH and even the 1H, we're getting more towards intraday timeframes. Meanwhile, I really want to get a potential clear daily and weekly bias, which I cannot get. So my last resort is on the hourly time frame, which is so far bearish. And I do believe we have a lot of sell side targets here to the downside. So let's see, right? I am overall forecasting a potential bearish dollar for now. Maybe not for the very long term, but maybe for now. And then as we start taking all this liquidity, then the question will be, are we going to start heading higher or are we going to continue lower? So right now, if you're looking to trade on Monday, for example, then wait to see some signs, like wait to see, is the market going to sweep and then potentially start going lower? Or is the market going to like start offering you 1 hourly bearish imbalances to potentially go lower, and then new 4 hourly bearish imbalances to then start targeting these weekly liquidity, these monthly liquidity points, and then potentially see what's going to happen. So that's my DXY outlook. Overall bearish. Let's see how the other pairs are looking like. So if the DXY is bearish, then EURUSD should be bullish. And yes, we're having a very nice monthly bullish candle. Now, what did this candle do is it actually took out the previous monthly high, which is also a very nice weekly here, a very nice weekly swing high, all right? And what we did is we took out monthly and weekly liquidity, and then we pulled back to rebalance weekly imbalance. So this to me, so remember what I told you within the economic calendar, that if we're going to be cutting the rates on the euro, that is usually bearish. But to me, the technicals are looking quite bullish. So that is where I have this little bit of uncertainty, all right? So is this giving me like a fake signal right now? Is it going to drop? Again, always remember, anything can happen in the market. You can have the cleanest of biases, right? And you can have like the best technical analysis, but all it takes is just somebody. I watched actually a podcast for somebody. All it takes is one stupid person to do something. And the example was how a trader was trading, for example, oil, and there was some guy in Egypt that went and blew like some sort of a pipeline, and then pretty much everything changed, no matter how perfect it looked. Okay, so of course the scenery can change very fast, but right now in terms of technicals, tapped into the weekly, trying to push higher. So I even get a weekly bias here, which is great. Now then dropping onto the daily time frame, it did develop a little bit tricky. Euro USD was slightly bit tricky to trade this week overall, and the past quite some time has been tricky here, right? Since we had this very nice impulse taking liquidity, then usually it tends to become a little bit tricky, right? We have this daily bearish imbalance that the market has to deal with, and you can see we tapped into the weekly, we had a very nice expansion tapping into the daily, and right now we're kind of reacting from that daily. All right, so are we going to flush lower from that daily, or are we going to start seeing signs that this daily is actually going to fail? Well, I already see them kind of. We can see that the market just massively blasted through this daily zone, and it's currently making, like it did make this very small, like it's so small 4-hourly bullish imbalance that once again suggests to me that there was a lot of bullish pressure coming in from here, and we also had this 4-hourly zone that the market actually responded for this long. Okay, so I would say once again, it definitely looks like the DXY, even though it actually has a lot more confluences because it has like a weekly zone, it has a very clear liquidity targets on top. So I would say that maybe on the short term, maybe at the beginning of the week, we could potentially look to take some longs into liquidity and then into the news, into NFP, into the ECB's interest rate decision, then look to step aside and look to wait. Okay, so the aim on this one will be to potentially try to catch an early trade like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Let's see if it takes liquidity, and then from there, let just the market decide what it wants to do, and then of course we're just gonna adapt into the incoming weeks. So Euro USD just to me looks bullish. I don't see even a single bearish sign right now. A bearish sign would be if that daily bearish imbalance actually holds, and if, for example, the 4-hourly time frame actually starts invalidating these imbalances and printing new bearish, then of course I'm gonna go short. And this is what I always do. Like, I'm never certain on a bias. I just jump in the morning, go, okay, what do we have today? I don't even care what happened yesterday. What do we have today? How's the market looking like today? What is the market telling me? And then, for example, right now I'm telling you I'm long bias. On Monday, the market could make a very massive bearish push with a very nice bearish imbalance. I'm gonna be bearish immediately. All right? So always keep an open mind and always flow with the markets. GBP USD also looking quite bullish. We're having that monthly bullish imbalance. The market tapped it. And so far this month, what I really like about this monthly candle closure is that it actually closed with a body above the previous monthly high, which oftentimes suggests that it's strong, right? Now here, once again, what is the potential target? It's going to be that monthly high. Why? Well, because we're trading from a monthly imbalance to a monthly high, potentially. How are we potentially going to get there? Well, we're having this beautiful weekly imbalance that did not tap this week. So what we did this week is we took out the previous weekly high and we kind of chopped a little bit. So if you're looking actually for a more macro play on GU, it will be to wait for a potential tap into that weekly imbalance, right? And then to head higher. Like, that would be the absolute ideal world if we can do that. It would be very nice. So let's see if we're actually going to come back to that weekly imbalance, because what you can see once again, it's very similar to EU. We're having this daily bearish imbalance. This is also kind of a flipped. I see it's being called like inverted fair value gap, where you have a bullish, then you have a bearish one, right? Probably looks like a very nice reversal pattern here, and it's tapping into that bearish daily imbalance. So the very key question right now is to once again observe the 4-hourly time frame, because we had a similar situation last week where we actually had a weekly imbalance below us, but then the 4-hourly time frame was already continuing higher. And then we said, like, it's pretty much here, right? You can see on Friday and Monday, we said, okay, is the market actually going to pull back into the weekly this week, or is it going to continue like respecting these 4-hourly imbalances? And as you can see on GU, it didn't really pull back, but it actually pushed higher. It took the liquidity, and then it started pulling back massively, and I truly thought it's going to reach the imbalance, but it did not, which is strange. Now, right now, we're tapping into this daily, and you can see, unlike EU, we don't have anything on the 4-hourly time frame. We don't have a bullish 4-hourly imbalance to potentially cause the market to move higher. So in this case, you might start making your way even to the 1-hourly time frame, because right now on GU, what is important to monitor is the 4-hourly and the 1-hourly. So what are those two intraday timeframes going to tell you? Because it's those two timeframes that are going to show you which hard timeframe zones are going to get tapped. So if you have, for example, this weekly zone, how do you know if this weekly zone is going to get tapped, right? So you don't expect it to tap, you just listen to the market. If the volatility time frame starts pushing lower, making a very nice expansion candle, then this is very likely going to be a 1 hour imbalance, right? And then this can potentially drive you into this weekly. And then as we tap the weekly, then of course I'm going to be looking for reversal signs to potentially go higher. That would be my ideal outcome. Short into the weekly and then long from the weekly. But now if, for example, the 1 hour in the volatility time frame start expanding higher, they break this daily, so we have this daily time frame, the market is reacting right now. If we break this reaction with a very nice forward expansion candle and 1 hour imbalance is going higher, then guess what? I will just immediately start targeting the liquidity. And then of course, what we have above. So those are my two outcomes on GBP USD. I would definitely much prefer for us to tap into the weekly imbalance. It's very strange that it didn't tap it right here, like super strange, but the market is strange. So let's see how it opens and let's see of course what it does. Currently, immediately, there is no signal. So of course we have to wait for market open and flow with the market. All right, let's have a look at AU. Now, the main thing about AU right now is that it's taking a very big liquidity point, which is this monthly swing high. It's also the previous monthly high. So there is a lot of liquidity resting above this high. And you can see we're pretty much right now reacting from it. Now, if we're taking monthly and also like in this case, it's also like a very big weekly liquidity, then I would like to see like a hard time frame rebalance, like either on the monthly, either on the weekly, the daily, not even the daily. Now, if you carefully look at it, the only thing we have to rebalance here is this very extremely tiny weekly imbalance, which is something that I will not necessarily look for the market to pull back to. But what you see happened this week, potentially, is that we took out the previous weekly low and we look like we actually rejected from it. Now, my main question once again is, okay, so we took that liquidity. Are we going to head for the buy side here? Or are we still going to continue going lower? And now in this case, you once again start making your way to the lower time frames to potentially judge what is happening. Now on AU, it once again also got a little bit choppy here. Like since we took this liquidity, the market started pulling back. But what did it pull back into? Well, it was nothing much. We had this, for example, daily bullish imbalance. The market tapped it. It failed. Why did the daily fail? Well, because we took monthly and weekly liquidity. So it will like to potentially rebalance or take weekly and monthly liquidity, not daily, right? So then it pulled back very deep. And then, yeah, it started tapping into these zones here. It started reacting. But again, you can see it's failing to move. Why? Well, very likely because it doesn't have enough liquidity and enough volume in order to push higher, okay? So right now we did sweep this previous weekly low, which is also this daily swing low, previous weekly low. And it seems like the last 2 days, it's trying to push up. So currently I would say in terms of the macro side, like in terms of like monthly, weekly and daily, which is my macro timeframes, that's my hard timeframes, which usually I want to be clear. It's not entirely clear, which is immediately kind of a little bit of a red flag. But then if I start making my way to the forward time frame, what I see happening is that we again took out this previous weekly low. And we very nicely made this forward imbalance out of it, which was a nice trade on Friday that I really actually wanted to take, but it just started running away here. It didn't give me clear entry, and I didn't want to trade it during London. So this trade potentially here during the dead hour could have been nice. Yeah, doesn't matter, didn't take it. But then what I don't like also is that out of this forward bullish imbalance that looks pretty nice, we failed to make a new bullish one. And we just popped higher, and instead of taking the liquidity, we just stopped and we printed a massive bearish candle, also invalidating a new imbalance. So currently, it's absolutely tricky. And in all honesty, once again, I don't necessarily have a clear bias because I don't see any imbalances to potentially support my idea. I really don't like this candle here. This was a very nice expansion. Absolutely could have made a very nice imbalance here to potentially continue higher, but it did not. So to me right now, this pair is a little bit 50-50, and I will definitely give it Monday, maybe even Tuesday, to potentially show me what it wants to do, where it wants to go. Okay, it's not clear on the hard time frames. We don't know what kind of macro zone to potentially reach for. So again, we have to be waiting and evaluating as the market is printing. So currently, I would say I'm definitely more bullish than bearish, but again, I will need to see some sort of signs that the market wants to go higher, maybe on the 1 hourly time frame on Monday. Okay, New York session. And then as we start taking liquidity, then it's going to be very important to judge, okay, are we going to sweep, for example, this high and then start going lower, or are we going to start closing above it and continuing to impulse above it towards this liquidity point? But again, we can't really forecast that far ahead in time. So again, focus on what is right now in front of you. This liquidity point, but we need to see a zone. We need to see the market guiding us towards this liquidity point, which we right now don't have. So have to wait. NZUSD on the other hand looks a lot stronger than AU, so let's maybe explore why. We're having a very strong monthly bullish candle. On the weekly time frame, also what we have here that we don't have on AU is that we're having a weekly bullish imbalance. Now this is the same situation between EU. No, it's not the same. No. So we have this, well, it's kind of the same because EU tapped the weekly, right? GU is not, like you can see GU pushed away. So exactly NZUSD also did the same. It had a weekly bullish imbalance, but it kind of pushed away. So why is it doing this? Well, who knows? So the main question once again is, are we going to pull back into that weekly, or are we just gonna start running higher? The very recent liquidity target we have is this guy. So that is, to me, this is very certain because there is nothing else. Like if you, for example, even take this OB here, that was tapped. If you take it from the body as well, this is tapped. Everything is tapped. So if we're going to go higher, that is potentially the zone that I will be looking to target. Then we transfer onto the daily, and it's like, once again, this very tricky delivery. Bullish, then turns into bearish. It didn't really tap into the weekly. Like if it did tap into the weekly, it would have been very nice, but it did not. And right now, pretty much is that first day tapping into that daily bearish imbalance. Okay, so we really have to drop, for example, lower on the hourly time frame, which is once again where that trickiness comes in. And the only pair that actually has bullish imbalances in this precise situation this week is EU. Very nice bullish imbalance. We're tapping in, we continue higher potentially. That's a long trade you can take to target that daily imbalance. Taps it, reacts, massively breaks it, but it does not make a new hourly bullish imbalance. So in that case, on the 1 hourly time frame, if so similar, this is what I'm going to be looking pretty much on AU and NU. On the 1 hourly time frame, are we going to start making imbalances to push us higher and to guide us into the liquidity area? Or are we going to start just reversing and, for example, printing a 1 hourly bearish and 4 hourly bearish to then guide us into this weekly? Because if we do print a very nice bearish imbalance and some very nice bearish structures, though, there is nothing to stop price from just reaching these lows. Like all of this right now is going to turn into flat. All of this is also together liquidity here. This is all very nice liquidity. So if the market actually drops to that weekly, a lot of liquidity is going to get taken. And then from there, we can expect the potential pump higher if that's going to happen. So once again, the main question right now is, what are we going to be doing from this precise point? And once again, guess what? You have to wait for the market to tell you. It's always the case. Are we going to start pumping higher to take liquidity? And then after the liquidity, what? Are we going to continue going higher, or are we going to start sweeping and reversing? We never know. So currently, just going to leave it here. Wait for signs and wait to see where your 4 hourly and 1 hourly imbalances and structure are going to guide you towards liquidity or towards the weekly rebalance. All right, quite exciting about gold because right now we have actually made this monthly bullish imbalance that could potentially be a very nice draw on liquidity. Because imbalances, they can serve as potentially like as trading zones, and they can also serve as attraction zones, like where is the market potentially going to. So currently on the weekly time frame, we can see that we don't have anything. We don't have anything bullish. We don't have anything bearish, which is great. This week was absolutely choppy. Why? Probably because it's awaiting for next week. So I think gold right now could get volatile because it's very likely, like I don't want to say certain, but the bias is very clear. It's very likely bearish, but of course, let's not marry anything. We had this daily bearish imbalance that was looking very nice. There was a short trade we took, but it was a break even, unfortunately. Then the market chopped around. It took out this low here, rejected, and then on Friday we pulled back and we still printed a bearish candle. So there is nothing much on the daily. But if you also look on the daily time frame right now, there is nothing to stop price. We took out this liquidity point, we reacted, and then pretty much the next liquidity point is all the way down. So if you want to target something closer, then it will be that one. And then of course it will potentially be that monthly imbalance. Then of course we can work our way with the 4 hourly time frame, which also looks pretty good. We had this bullish here. The market tried, like it tries to push, it fails. But right now we have this very nice bearish imbalance. And I would say gold is probably the cleanest one, right? So if we can manage to pull back into this volatile zone, and then if we can start making 50-minute and 1 hour imbalances lower, there is an easygoing target. And then of course the next one is going to be the monthly zone. So gold looks extremely clean, not gonna lie, but also keep in mind that when the market looks extremely clean, usually it doesn't play out, right? So it's super strange, but happens very often. So flow with the market. Let's see how it goes. Looking to potentially short from that area. If it does, good. If it doesn't do, also good. Okay, let's see. Bearish bias on gold, also aligning with overall our. No, it's not aligning, which is strange because we see that the DXY is bearish. So gold should potentially be bullish. But you can see right now we're not even having the correlation between gold and the DXY, which is also another slightly bad signal. So again, trade with caution. But in terms of technicals and just being super systematic, it looks very good for a short. So maybe then we head towards the liquidity, we head towards that monthly zone, and then we can start popping when the DXY could maybe then turn bearish. Who knows? Those are things that you just cannot expect. So focus on what is happening right now and what you can do about what is happening right now. Let's check out some JPYs. Now USD JPY, we're having a very strange monthly candle. It didn't make a new monthly bullish imbalance, but it made a very strange candle here. So very likely we're going to have a wick fill. So the next month could potentially start a little bit bearish. In terms of weekly, we also don't have anything because the market filled this weekly bullish imbalance, and then since then it has been going higher, which is okay. And then dropping onto the daily time, like, I mean, UJ is just not clear, right? I'm not even gonna cover it right now because it's just not clear, right? Move up, massive move down, then slowly moving up, then chopping right here for quite some time, then up and then down, and then right now starting to retrace back up. It's just not nice. Bullish, then bearish right now, and then right now it's bullish. And in this case, I would wait for something preferably clear on the daily, but we can't really have it on the daily. Like, we don't have a single daily bullish imbalance since we started pushing higher here. And we're pushing higher in terms of structure, but in terms of momentum also, we're not. And then you can see even the lower time frames, when you don't have those daily imbalances, the lower time frames are kind of choppy and they move very slow. They move very slow. It's still going higher, but they go higher very slow, which oftentimes is going to cost you like taking a stop loss, but then still being right on the direction, which is why I always require like hard time frame imbalances to trade from, because they're usually volatile, and when you get an entry, it goes to TP. So currently we had this bearish push, and right now we're starting to have this bullish push. I don't like it. So I don't have any analysis on UJ, so I'm just going to move on to the other JPYs. Well, what we can of course conclude from UJ is that it's overall strong. Okay, so that means that the JPY is weak, which means that, for example, a lot of JPY pairs are potentially going to go higher, which is the case. Euro JPY, very nice push higher, going towards that monthly high. On the weekly time frame, what we also had, oh, this actually tapped. Beautiful. So this one actually tapped into the weekly. Now, this one is way better than UJ. Or did we tap? I don't think so. Maybe on another broker we did, but what I already see is that we're already expanding away from it. So if we have something on the daily time frame, which we don't have yet, okay, so see, it's still slow, like slow, sluggish, then all of a sudden whoop whoop, massive bearish, then all of a sudden on Friday whoop, massive reversal, right? On the 40 time frame right now, pretty much there is your key. Is the market going to continue from this zone, or is it going to start pulling back towards the weekly? Check out on other brokers. I'm on Forex.com, but if you check FXCM, Oanda, or something else, very likely to maybe actually tap this weekly imbalance. Right now we have this hourly zone to work with, so I would expect for the market to maybe carry on and take liquidity. So if you manage to catch this very quick trade, it does look pretty good. Just wait for a slight bit more of a confirmation. Maybe, for example, a 1 hourly push higher as well to confirm that 15-minute structure and imbalances going higher. It could be pretty nice. Now, personally, I'm not trading JPYs at all, so I'm definitely not into this market. But of course, this is how it looks like right now. Bullish. Let's see. GBP USD being super strong, and also USD JPY being super strong, that is probably the perfect time to be trading GJ. You can see very massive expansion and already taking out that monthly high, which is great. On the weekly time frame right now, what are we having? So as we're taking right now massive monthly liquidity, I would expect potentially a monthly or weekly rebalance, and we already have that rebalancing area here. On the daily time frame, yeah, we did pull back, and right now it looks like it's already wanting to expand. And then on the 40 time frame, we don't have an imbalance. So it's not as ideal as I thought it would be. Actually, EJ looks kind of better right now. This one, it's pushing higher, but again, you see, we don't have anything to push higher from in terms of the 40 time frame. So I do believe, again, based on my data and based on my plan, when you have such a macro liquidity taken, so in this case, that's a monthly high, that's a very massive weekly swing high as well, the market tends to rebalance something on those timeframes, not something on the lower time frame. So in that case, I will be looking for a rebalance of this weekly zone in order to then potentially start going higher. But it could be very likely, also could be the case that the market just starts to expand higher and keep making new highs, and that's okay. The problem with DJIA right now is that we don't have anything on the 40 time frame. It's pushing higher very nicely. It's taking out all the old areas to the left. Okay, so in this case, if you really want to trade it higher into this very close liquidity point, then that is the time at which you can potentially utilize the 1 hourly time frame, right, and start getting fractal and potentially look for a trade like this. Then just keep in mind that if this high is getting taken right now, that is a lot of liquidity being taken, and very likely the market can start making a bigger correction. So just be aware of that. But overall bullish bias. If you can catch a very quick long trade towards that liquidity, that's great. But then after this, observe. Is it going to continue pushing above and making new 4 hourly and even daily expansion candles above this high? Or is it going to start rejecting and start printing something opposing, which is then going to mean that we might actually want to go to that weekly? But of course, let's see how the market opens and we're going to flow with it. All right, let's look at the indices. So starting with US 500, we're having a very nice monthly bullish candle close. All right, that's great. This is also coming from that monthly bullish imbalance. All right, that is also very nice. Now, keep in mind, we have a lot of imbalances below as well. So let's see. Then dropping onto the weekly time frame, we see that the market currently is responding from this weekly zone. We also have that weekly zone. Oh, this one actually also pinked. Yeah, this one also pinked exactly on Friday, and we're very nicely rejecting right now. So pretty much I would say still looks quite bullish to me. Right now, if I transfer onto the daily time frame to see, we can see that we tapped into that weekly, but right now we're going to be battling with that daily. So we have a little bit of a supply and demand sandwich situation. So I'm going to be really closely observing, in this case, the 4 hourly time frame, what the 4 hourly time frame is going to tell me. Okay, so if the 4 hourly time frame makes a bullish 4 hourly imbalance, then I will be interested to continue going long towards the liquidity. All right. But if the market, for example, on Monday or Tuesday, like starts invalidating this and starts pushing lower, then I could start also expecting maybe a little bit of a pullback. So indices, you might say that they're due for some sort of a pullback, but we already pulled back on the monthly, right? We haven't pulled back towards retesting these highs, which is where I eventually want to see the market go. Okay, and it's probably gonna go. We just don't know when. We have to be looking right now for how the market, so the market responded from that monthly. It took out the monthly high, which is great, and right now it's responding from that weekly. It could potentially take out the weekly high, but then if we stop at a time making new bullish imbalances going higher, then that could mean we are due for a correction. Okay, but so far it is quite bullish, and the thing that I'm observing right now is if we're going to be forming a new 4 hourly bullish imbalance to potentially go higher from, and then pretty much to trade it higher. So still bullish on SPX. Let's see how the others are looking like. Similar situation on Nasdaq. We're having pretty much this monthly bullish imbalance here. And if you watch closely, this one came very close to retesting this, what used to be like an all-time high that we're right now very strongly breaking above. A very nice monthly candle as well. Then transferring onto the weekly, we already took like monthly and weekly liquidity. So we actually came back to rebalance weekly imbalance, which is also great to see. We're very nicely rejecting from that weekly imbalance, and we're also very nicely retesting this overall area to the left, which is great. Now on the daily time frame, however, once again, we're going to be encountering a lot of these supply and demand sandwiches. So this is a lot of resistance to the left. We have these two daily bearish imbalances that are going to be very nasty reaction points. So even if you actually go higher, the market is gonna come in here, it's gonna react, then it's gonna come in here, it's gonna react, and then it's gonna start breaking when all the things to the left are taken. So currently, once again, like it was a strange delivery on Friday, especially like we had this fall bearish imbalance, the market tapped it and massively, massively went lower, but then it just massively went higher, right? So currently, my overall drawn liquidity is going to be this daily bullish imbalance, bearish imbalance that is going to tap very fast, very likely. So very likely I'm not going to trade into it. But then as we start tapping into this zone, then I would like to observe how it's going to react. And then if it's going to start breaking the reaction, right, and starting to build bullish order flow. If it does this, then of course I'm going to try to go long and targeting, of course, the new all-time highs. But if we start responding from these daily zones and if we start actually printing some bearishness, then that could mean we are due for a deeper pullback that could take us maybe into some of these lower imbalances. But I personally think this is the area that I believe the market should continue higher from. This is also a very big fat OB here. Let's look at all these sell candles. That's massive sell, and then in order to buy, the market came back to retest that. So if it's gonna go higher, I think it should start going higher from this very place. So let's see, looking for a 4-hourly bullish order flow. So I'm looking for 4-hour uptrend because right now we had that downtrend. So right now I'm looking for that downtrend to start turning into an uptrend and pretty much targeting all-time highs. So bullish bias overall. Let's see how it goes. US 30 always moved differently to the other ones, and it used to be a lot more bearish. So we actually took out the monthly high here and we very nicely rejected. So then transferring onto the weekly time frame, we can see that this one made a very heavy weekly pullback. Like it came all the way down to that bullish imbalance. And what it also has right now is a weekly bearish imbalance. So if I just look at US 30, it's an absolutely 50-50 market, because it has something bullish that it's reacting from, but at the same time it made this bearish. So what it's gonna be doing is gonna go to take out this liquidity from the lows, or is gonna start turning bullish right now and start taking out highs. Now on the daily time frame, also extremely tricky delivery. We're having like this weekly bullishness, but then we have also this daily bearishness here, and also here. Like guys, US 30 is just not tradable. It has so many zones, like weekly bullish, weekly bearish, daily bearish, and right now it's very likely gonna print a daily bullish as well. But then it's gonna react from this daily bearish, then it's gonna come into the weekly, so we can have like this and then this and then this and then reaction, and then what the hell is going on. Okay, so US 30, I would say I just don't like it overall. I would much prefer to focus like on Nasdaq, or even in this case SPX looks the best, because it doesn't have like another daily imbalance. So in this case, Nasdaq has 2 daily imbalances that it still hasn't tapped, while US SPX is already breaking kind of above this daily bullish imbalance. And if it prints nice 4-hourly bullishness, it can be a very nice long. Meanwhile, like Nasdaq and the US 30 are a little bit weaker, so I would be very careful. So definitely looking on US 30 for Monday to close to see if we get a daily bullish imbalance, and then from that daily bullish imbalance, we can then potentially trade into the weekly bearish. All right, so that is my plan for US 30. Let's see if it comes to fruition, but overall I don't like it, so I would much better trade the other two. All right, making full circle back. Now the DXY looks quite bearish at the moment, but overall you should know that on the macro time frames, it's not exactly very clear. So we're overall consolidating, we're failing to pick a macro direction, and we have been moving like sideways for quite some time right now. So is the incoming month going to change this? Well, we can only hope, but we should always be expecting the worst. Now, on the 40 time frame, we're having very nice bearishness, so I'm definitely bearish on the DXY, which means bullish on EU, which is currently reacting from a weekly zone as well, already building forward order flow. So EU is my favorite pair going at the beginning of next week. GU is a little bit 50-50 on this one. It didn't retest the weekly imbalance, so I would wait for it to actually retest it and then maybe go higher. But if it starts showing me signs that it wants to go higher even without pulling back here, then I will definitely jump on the train. AU, it's like it doesn't have anything clear when it comes to like monthly, weekly, and daily. Nothing. So the only thing I can base it on is that previous weekly low sweep, and then we're starting to react from this. And we did try to build some bullish forward order flow, but we kind of failed here on Friday to make a new forward bullish imbalance. So right now I'm just going to be observing like the 1 hour and the 40 time frame. Are they going to start going higher towards this one, or are they going to start going lower towards pretty much, yeah, becoming bearish and taking even more liquidity, or maybe even going eventually to rebalance this weekly bullish imbalance? I don't know. I'm not entirely clear on the macro time frame. NZUSD, similar to GU, it has this weekly bullish imbalance, but it didn't retest it, and it's already starting to show bullish signs on the 4 hourly. So are we going to continue towards liquidity first, or are we going to start failing these imbalances and then potentially go to the weekly? We don't know. We gotta wait. Gold is the only clear pair that is actually looking very nice for an early trade, even on Monday. But of course, I would never trade Monday, especially in London. Maybe New York, sure. But it's having like a very nice monthly imbalance to potentially target. On the weekly time frame, it doesn't have anything to stop it. On the daily time frame, it has already daily bearish order flow. And on the 40 time frame, it has this very nice entry zone. So to me, gold is my favorite. USD/JPY, absolutely choppy. EJ looking very good for a nice quick long, all right? But keep in mind, it also has a weekly imbalance, and GJ also has a weekly imbalance, but they both look super strong, so they can just rush towards taking liquidity once more. When it comes to the indices, overall bullish signs that I'm getting, we're already very nicely responding. So for example, SPX tapped into this weekly bullish imbalance and very massively responded. So is it going to start following through? That's the question. I'm waiting for 4 hourly zone to form and then to potentially trade higher from that. But of course, Monday definitely skipping, especially for the indices. And the Nasdaq and US 30, they are a little bit more mixed, especially US 30. It's like quite bearish. Nasdaq has a lot of resistance here, like in the form of these daily bearish imbalances. They can cause the market to struggle quite a lot. So I'm going to be a lot careful trading NAS. So I would much prefer SPX in this case because it can run easier towards a new all-time high. So overall bullish on the indices and bearish on the dollar right now. Keep in mind that we're having a lot of news next week that can definitely change the scenery. So once again, keep showing up and just keep flowing with the market and just focus on what is happening today and what can I do about today. Because if you constantly keep thinking about what is going to happen this week or what is going to happen in the upcoming days, you're just trying to do something that is, I would even say, a little bit impossible, right? Don't focus on long-term macro moves, where the market is going, where is that going. All you need is to just show up today, take a good trade, call it a day, and then just come and do the same tomorrow, all right? So have an amazing, incredible week ahead of you. Have an amazing and incredible and profitable month ahead of you. And I'm gonna talk to you on the next one.